let me start with one of the questions that our co-anchor Manus Cranny there asked Rick Perry. Do you think he'll be impeached, the U.S. president?
I think it's very likely he's going to be impeached. I doubt very much he's going to be convicted. The people who control the conviction are the Republican voters. As with Nixon, they have to turn against him with a smoking gun to get those Republican senators to vote against him. And so far, I don't see the smoking gun. I don't see them moving against him.
Right. That brings us into the U.S. election cycle. I mean, this time next year will be, I'm sure news will be dominated by the upcoming presidential elections. For global investors, when do I need to start paying more close attention to what's going on there?
Well, for global investors, you're going to be looking at every other global investor getting upset or excited or happy or sad. In terms of the impact of all of this, it's going to be very little, practically speaking. The president is going to be locked in a battle, or whoever else is running, with their opponent. They're going to be saying apocalyptic things. The markets will react because they said apocalyptic things, but it will go on till the end. It won't be until after the inauguration that we'll begin to see any change of policy or any shift in the United States.
George, looking south of the border, we're seeing these results coming out of Argentina. Not a big surprise that Alberto Fernandez has won and is now president-elect for Argentina. What are the implications for Argentina's economy and its politics, and potentially as well its relationship with the United States?
Well, essentially, Macri had a policy that he wanted to supercharge the economy. He did do things for the investor class and so on. He left everybody else behind. And the Argentine example is something very important about what I think is a coming recession or certainly slowdown. In many countries, the numbers show substantial growth. The distribution of that growth isn't there. So you have countries in which you say, wow, we have grown by X percent, but it hasn't flown down to other people, and it's going to cause instability. China is one of these countries. China's numbers aren't great, but even worse is the distribution to the interior and to a lot of people. When you go through the list, you have a situation where the aggregate's fine, the distribution is awful, and that distribution elects leaders.
Right, George, I guess the segue, from what you just mentioned there, I think of Argentina, I can't think of, a span of a solid 2-3 years where the economy has done well, going back 20, even 30 years. That brings us to just social unrest that we've seen, not just in Argentina, but elsewhere across the world. You know, the word protest has become synonymous, not just here in Hong Kong. How much of all the social unrest do you think I can blame on a slowing global economy?
Well, I think a lot of it. Not all of it by any means. What goes on in Lebanon has a great deal to do with the economy, but also other matters. But look, 2008 disappeared from a market point of view. The markets went up. But from the point of view of structures of economies, of societies, the damage it did is still there. In other words, you still have people underemployed. You still have industries that were destroyed. You still have countries depending on exports and not going to have customers. So the weakness underlying the economy, the society itself, is still there. And what you're seeing now is the kind of forward wave of that problem. The weaker countries, Latin America, some in the Middle East, others, are starting to show the tension. And the tension is not reflected in growth numbers or anything like that. It is really seen in the streets with people who are fed up with the system and desperate and are realizing now with the global recession, it's not going to get better for them.